Okay, first and foremost, I apologize for any extra sound. I live in an apartment, walls are thin, you know how that goes. Also, this is my first video. Well, it's not my first video I've ever made on YouTube ever. I've been around forever doing other random crap, but I've never made a video that's like just me doing stuff, because oh, that's probably why I just smacked the microphone and now you guys have bleeding eardrums. Whatever. Not my point. Also, I'm not used to trying to make myself talk for 30 minutes because that's how long I decided I was going to make my speed paint. You know, as you can see, it's playing in the background. You probably won't pay any attention to it, but if you do, whatever. That's cool. Anyway, so, like I was saying, sorry for extra noise, sorry for weird stuff. I'm really lazy about this stuff, and I don't feel like cutting it down and adding a bunch of fancy stuff, so you're just gonna have to listen to my voice and, I guess, deal with it. It's incredibly annoying, but whatever. Sorry. On to the actual point. So by the title of this video, I guess you can tell it's called Elitists, Holly Brown, oh no, what was that? And the importance of learning the rules with an asterisk. I put the asterisk just because that was like the main point I want to kind of make in this video. Anyway, so like, firstly, I guess we can touch on the elitist part, you know, like both people who have like a reason to be and those who put on kind of an air to like detract from their like, I don't want to say, but like lackluster skill set, like those who are like, they're good but they're lacking something, but they like put on an air to make themselves seem bigger than they actually are. And like the reason why I say like, I'm not even going to touch on people who like have a reason to be an elitist, so to speak, like, because I mean those are people who are good at what they do, but like they have a huge pride and it's inflated and it's like, you know, it's impossible to see past that, and they kind of come off as like a butthole. So like, you know, an example of that would be like Instagram artists, you know, like a majority of the community on Instagram is like welcoming, diverse, you know. There are a couple who are like, they would rather alienate those who they do not deem worthy. You know, it's kind of a harsh way of putting it, but it's kind of true. To these people, it's almost as if you were like an untouchable if your art skill isn't up to par. They don't offer help or criticism, you know, and a lot of the time they're incredibly rude when they do give criticism. And I wouldn't even call that criticism because it's just people, oh my god, your arm is like in the back, that sucks, you should figure out how to do better, blah blah, stuff like that. I don't see that a whole lot, you know, anymore. I used to, but whatever. You know, that's not the point of this video. So, I mean, I'm sure you've all heard of the controversy surrounding Holly Brown right now. I kind of heard of her like a couple of months ago, because I guess she did something that was like, I'm sorry if you guys hear me breathe. I have really tiny freaking lungs, so like talking as much as I am right now is like killing me. I played wind instruments for years. I don't know how I managed that. Anyway, so, you know, I'm sure you've heard of the controversies surrounding Holly Brown. It's not the first time her name has popped up alongside the aforementioned C word of controversy. So that's when I heard about her, was like 10 months ago, when she like, I guess was like trying to say, I don't know, I'll get to that part later, but you know, she said quite a few things that are not like great. Her art advice is kind of like subpar, and her attitude is kind of like, okay, it's not a bad word, but it's atrocious. Her attitude's kind of atrocious. You know, I understand she's trying to fix that and do better, but like some of her videos are just, I understand edgy humor. You know, I'm part of that community, but that's a little, hers is a little too much sometimes. You know, from her stating drag is offensive, and, you know, complaining about pride parades, you know, while simultaneously profiting off of her comics about gay men, you know. But that's not the point we're trying to make in the video, but that's just what I'm talking about when I say her attitude's kind of atrocious. But her most little recent scuffle was tracing. You know, she apologized. The apology was kind of bland. It was kind of, it seemed insincere. It kind of reminded me of Laura Lee without all the crying, and it just seemed like she was backpedaling really hard because she understands in a way that she messed up. But I don't know if she understands the full weight of all of her actions up to this point. It's like, her attitude kind of reminds me of Momo-kun, like not with the Momo-kun and the touching and the not supposed to be, but like just Momo-kun's like attitude with the all over the place like edgy content and the screaming and the I'm so random and that kind of stuff. And those types of people never seem to truly understand that what they're portraying, what they're doing is affecting them as a person and how other people view them, whether or not it's humor or not. But moving on from that. Okay, so I watched D'Angelo's video about this when I was like kind of just snooping around. And Holly commented on his video and basically said that she and many other professional artists trace to save time or whatever. Like, that's not true. I would by no means categorize myself as a professional artist, but I have had jobs. I've had commissions that deal with me having to work with other people to create content, you know, whether it be designing logos for an indie company through contract where I have to follow certain things, to just doing commissions for people who pay me to draw whatever the heck they want. So that's what she said. It's completely incorrect, you know. Most people will use references, you know, as you saw in the beginning of my speed paint. I kind of pointed out that I used a reference because, you know, I was going to make this point later, you know. I didn't record the sketching process because I kind of just spur of the moment started recording this, but, you know, I might make another video where I show how I sketch things and block stuff out. So, that's fine, you know, to use a reference, but, you know, blatantly tracing stuff and then kind of trying to backpedal and say, oh, everybody does it. You know, it's kind of, you know. So, anyway, I say you know a lot. Is Fox News going to come after me like they did Michelle Obama? Oops. So her behavior is very much like, it's like faux elitism. So, you know, she claims constantly that she is very serious about her art and she works on it 12 hours a day. And while I don't doubt that, she hasn't seemed to improve much at all with all that work she's put in, you know? It's almost as if she sees what she wants and desires so badly to kick it with the quote-unquote big kids that she's trying to be something like she's not. You know, she doesn't give very helpful art advice because it's you know, because it's riddled with anatomical mistakes, and she screams a lot to achieve what she's trying to teach, and it comes off as very immature and not professional, and, you know, young artists are going to be very deceived by what she's saying, you know, because it's not educational at all. And she thinks she's right, and that anybody else who tries to criticize her or come at her is wrong. So that's, you know, that's kind of what I see as elitism, you know, an ego, a pride, whatever you call it. But that's not wanting to admit that you're wrong and seeing everybody else as inferior who challenges you. Or, you know, she made a video about like mistakes that young artists make, and it was kind of just, you know, dumb stuff that really didn't make a lot of sense, you know. It was kind of just saying like, this is how I do this, and if you don't do it this way, you're doing it wrong, which is kind of in your face. And art is subjective, you know. I was in art school for 3 years. I decided it wasn't for me, but, you know, I heard that a lot. I heard art is subjective, you know. I had professors grade me A's on pieces, and then I had other professors give me a D on the same piece because they just didn't like it. It's you know, it's subjective, so you can't, I mean, okay, I'm not gonna get into that, but like, at its technical core, a lot of the stuff she was saying was wrong anyway, so, you know. And then there's another point where I was trying to make earlier. She got mad at people for the comic in an hour thing, or whatever that was. I should have done more research on that before I started talking about it, but whatever, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But she was like stating that people were mislabeling their comics as quote-unquote comics because they were just illustrations, and since they didn't tell a narrative, they couldn't call them comics, or they couldn't call them comics. And she was basically called out for being negative, and she quickly responded with more negativity. And that is like, you know, that's another example of being like too prideful and too elitist and being ego-filled is like, you know, telling people they can't enjoy things because I did it first, or I do it as a job for 12 hours a day. How dare you try and do it as a fun challenge, you know? It doesn't make sense to me. So, you know, here's a real kicker. This is what I wanted to touch on, probably what I'll be talking about for the rest of the video, is that basically she stated that she doesn't believe in going back to the basics. She doesn't think anything is wrong with her style, and I think she said something along the lines of, why would I practice something that isn't what I want to draw? Newsflash. In art school, we learn about this thing called learning the rules before you break them. You absolutely must, and I cannot stress this enough, you must learn the basics and fundamentals of color theory, composition, and anatomy. Let me say that. Anatomy. Let me say that one more time. Before you can bend it to your will. Of course, there's other things that are, you know, included in that, but, you know, you have to learn how to do those things before you start applying it to anime or semi-realism or really obscure out there, you know, mutated body style, whatever, what have you. Like, you have to learn how to use those tools before you start implementing them, you know? When you're working on a car, you don't just get under the hood and start tearing crap apart and, you know, this is my creative allowance and I can do whatever I want. Okay, you can do whatever you want, but it might not necessarily work when you're done with it. So, you know, I can see from her art, you know, I'm not claiming to be the best artist ever. You know, I don't even consider myself creative sometimes because I'm very technically, you know, I'm very technical about a lot of things that I do. I'm trying to get away from that because it's just a whole big story, and I'll probably do another story time about my ongoing like 2-year like art block. It's a mess. But, you know, from what I see about her art, it has a very like clear lacking of spatial recognition, you know, character uniqueness in the face and whatnot. And the big one is anatomical understanding, you know, understanding how the body works, understanding how it moves, how it flows, how to make it look organic, understanding how it acts in a 3D space, and, you know, how to foreshorten things. It all very much looks like she just sat down one day, decided she was going to do comics, and just stopped focusing on the fundamentals, you know? And of course she could fix all of this if she decided to do studies, and, you know, and it's, you know, whether she's too lazy or like prideful to sit down and practice isn't for me to decide, you know. That's not, you know, because it could really be either one. It could really be she just, you know, or it could just be like maybe she feels like she doesn't have enough time to sit down and practice. But, you know, if you want to make it and succeed and, you know, be a professional artist and go to these studios, you have to make time to practice. You know, you don't have to do it 20,400,000 hours a day, but you have to at least put in some time to it. You know, it could just be maybe she is too lazy. Maybe she just doesn't feel like it, doesn't want to do it. It's too engulfed in her other projects that she doesn't think it's important enough to take time to do it. Or, you know, the other one is like pride. You know, she could think that she's just the best thing in the world and that what she's doing couldn't possibly be wrong, you know, and that she doesn't have to sit down and practice because she knows what she's doing already. You know, I've had that feeling before. When I went to art school, people made me sit down and draw naked men for 3 hours a day, and I was like, I don't need this crap. I've been doing it since I was in middle school. Okay, I got a slap in the face when I realized that what I was drawing was not lining up with what I was seeing in front of my face. Or like what I had been drawing from my mind for years, you know. I have a pretty okay understanding of human anatomy now. I'm not perfect at it. I still do my studies every day, and I still kind of do portrait studies to study how the face works before I decide to, you know, do semi-realistic portraits, which is what I do a lot. You know, it's always a work improvement for work, what is that word? I just had an explosion in my brain. It is always a work in progress for everyone on the path of improvement. That's what I meant to say. I'm not cutting that out because it was funny. Anyway, you know, and then, so we'll get to the tracing of the picture. That's what everybody's mad about right now, so I guess we'll have to talk about it, you know, because I gotta get that clickbait, you know. Pause, dramatic pause. But, so, if I had to guess, you know, the inability to, or not the inability, but the unwillingness to sit down and practice the basics of art and learn how to draw new things and branch out is probably why she traced that picture of Alphonse. You know, Alphonse is just a suit of armor. You know, I didn't even start trying to figure out how to do armor or mechs or anything until this year when I realized that, hey, I need to be more diverse because I'm quickly approaching an area where I'm getting asked to do video game characters and, you know, render stuff out on paper, and, you know, armor is a very big thing in some video games now, actually in most video games now, you know. So if I had to guess, she just probably didn't have experience with drawing armor, and, you know, rather than sitting down and using it as, like, using it as a tool to learn a new skill, she decided to just, I don't know, I guess, trace it. So, you know, because I understand all artists get frustrated and what have you when you try to draw something for like 4 hours and every time you erase it and redo it, it comes out looking worse than the other time, you know, because you're not, you don't understand it and you haven't done it before. It's a new thing to you. I'm struggling with environments right now, trying to figure out how to do backgrounds because, you know, the white backgrounds don't cut it anymore. For some people they do, but not for me. I want to learn more. You know, I get so frustrated when I can't figure out why my edges are so soft. Because I'm used to doing portraits and stuff and not doing organic environments. I understand that part of it. But what I don't understand is just blatantly... Okay, so it's one thing to trace something for muscle memory. You know, to say, this is where these lines are, this is how you do it. It's like the most direct way of like telling your mind, like, this is how you do this, dummy. Okay? I used to do it, you know, all the time when I was a kid, okay? I wouldn't show it to anybody and I wouldn't be like, hey, I drew this, want to see? Blah, blah, blah. You know, I did have some times when I was in like, oh, I don't know, middle school where I posted a couple things on DeviantArt that I probably shouldn't have. You know, where kids make mistakes, you know, they do stupid things. But I think as a kid, you know, putting a piece of paper over, my mother is an artist, you know, putting a piece of paper over my mom's picture and tracing it just to get my hand thinking in that way. I mean, your hand doesn't think, but, you know, get your muscles thinking in that way. That's not necessarily an awful thing. Now, people will probably get mad at me for saying that because usually my artist friends do. Okay, I don't think that's an awful thing to do. I think it is an awful thing to do to trace it, post it to your audience, and mislead them and tell them that you did it yourself. I also think it is complete and utter bull to then make an apology and say that you just forgot it was there and that you were using it as a placeholder when the lines are very obviously neat and clean. So obviously you meant to keep it there. You know, it probably wouldn't have been as bad if you would have just been like, yeah, I traced that picture of Alphonse, I can't draw mechs, sue me. Okay, honesty is the best policy. At least you're being honest. People can say what they will, but at least you told them. Not saying anything is far worse, you know. So it all kind of just comes down to, like, if you don't understand how to do something, don't just try to rush something out and trace something and just put it there and just slap in an image that's not technically yours just to get something out, you know? Especially if, I don't know, Fujiwa, blah, blah, whatever those boys love fanfic comic things are called. Fujoshi? There we go. I think it's called Fujoshi. Okay, I don't know if you can commercialize and sell those, because as far as I'm aware, that's not your integral in property, and you can't do that. So it's not like she's selling it to somebody, which would be far worse. But it's an integrity issue, you know? it's a not learning how to do something and taking the easy way out because you don't want to sit down and figure it out issue. It's incredibly misleading, you know. And she uploaded a video, like, I think it was like 6 hours ago now, and it talks about the tracing thing again, and she's saying sorry for it again. It's kind of still bland. But she's saying she understands that her behavior is toxic, and she talks about deleting all the videos from her channel and whatnot, and wants to just start over. But she feels like she can't because she's built up an audience on that channel, and she doesn't want to have to lose that and rebuild. You know, sometimes it's worth it. If you're really serious about, you know, changing as a person and you think that's going to help, then, you know, go for it. I mean, I'm not saying to do it, but if that's what you think is going to help, don't let other people try to convince you otherwise. You know, she kind of acknowledges that she's a toxic person, that she's said things in the past that she shouldn't have. You know, and people are capable of change, so I'm sure she probably doesn't believe some of the you know, the drag queen comments and the pride comments and stuff, whatever. I'm sure she's grown from that and has realized that, you know, that's probably not something she should say because it's kind of not nice. But, you know, if she still believes that, that's kind of, hey, that's kind of not nice. You should rethink that. Of course, everybody's entitled to their own beliefs and opinions, so whatever. So, you know, I'm sure she's probably grown as a person. She has probably looked back on her videos and realized that they are toxic, you know. I hope that that is the case, but a lot of the things she says feel insincere. And if she's being insincere and she's just backpedaling because, oops, I got caught, then there's just no point. I mean, there's no point in trying to do anything. I mean, just continue as you are, and the people who are still staying and watching you will still be there. Just know that a lot of people are going to be mad at you for a long time until it blows over and everybody forgets, because it's just the nature of social media. You know, because of course I'm sure if somebody dug up some stuff I said in the past, I've probably said and done some things I regret and think are dumb. I was a very edgy little middle schooler. My Facebook is a gold mine of stupid. So, and you know, I do 100% think she's capable of change, and I think that she just needs to learn how to take criticism both on her character and on her art. I think if somebody tells her, like, hey, you're being an asshole, you need to slow your roll, you need to calm down, I think that she should sit down and listen and listen to all these videos people are making and, you know, actually take them in and, you know, digest them. And try and comprehend why people are saying these things about her. Try to look deep, see if she needs to seek help from other people, you know, be it a counselor, friend, whatever. Okay, maybe psychiatric counseling is a little extreme, but I'm just saying, you know, some people just need to see a therapist and just yell for a little while. Because, and as the art, you know, I see a lot of potential in her art, you know. She's got decent composition, her characters, they need a little work, but at least she has the courage to shove like 6 characters into one panel or one picture. You know, that's... I can hear my fiance in the background. I'm so sorry, but you know, that is awesome. That's something not a lot of people have the courage to do, or the drive to do, is to draw that many characters and have them be relevant to each other. That's awesome. I would love to see what she could do with, you know, a higher skill set. You know, I'm not necessarily saying that she needs to just 100% just quit everything she's doing right now. But, you know, I think maybe it would be good to do a little bit of soul searching and self-improvement. I think, you know, the arrogance I see so clearly in her content stems from a toxic elitist environment. And it's got to be nipped in the bud before we have another Holly Brown controversy video, or why I no longer support Holly Brown video, or Holly Brown is a scrub. Okay, which that video had a lot of accurate points in it, but it was kind of we don't call people fat. Just, you know, don't address people's appearance when that doesn't matter. That's not even whatever. Anyway, but you know, it's you know, this elitist environment, as I so call it. You know, that's just me. That's just me making up terms, probably, but it's affecting her ability to take criticism and improve, both as a person and in her art, like I said earlier, because she simply doesn't want to admit her art needs some work and that her abilities are like falling off due to ignoring basic artistic building blocks. You know, if I had any decent advice to give, it'd be to just jump off the social media, give the comics a break, and start studying, you know? I don't know if she profits a lot from doing her comics. I don't know her living situation. I don't know if she's capable of just taking a break and doing something else, but I think that it would benefit her greatly if she did do that. On this edition of trying to talk for 4 more minutes. But, you know, sometimes we all kind of have to make decisions that we necessarily don't want to make, but, you know, they'll benefit us in the end. You know, when I went to art school, I had to, if I say you know one more time, drinking game. Every time I say you know, take a shot, you'll be dead by the end of this video. Anyway, so when I went to art school, I was kind of an arrogant, you know, I was an arrogant little freshman. I was probably the only art kid in my school. There's probably one other girl. I think she's in art school right now still, but really, I was about the only one in my school who did digital art. I was that kid. I was the, oh my gosh, you're so good at that. How did you learn how to do that? Blah, blah. Can you draw me? Stuff like that. I thought I was hot shit coming into college. I thought, haha, you have nothing to teach me. I know all things. And, you know, that was kind of the case, sort of, in my drawing 1 class. We learned how to do hallway perspectives, or perspectives again, and I had been doing that since middle school, so I was kind of like, oh, okay. But then we started learning stuff in my 2D class about visualization, color theory, composition. I learned a lot in that class, and my professor was awesome. But at first, I kind of rolled my eyes and didn't want to listen to him, and these professors were so high and mighty, and they were blah, 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 and they were telling me this, and they were telling me to do that, but I drew semi-realistic things, and I did portraits, and I already know how to do this, so I don't have to listen to you. So you know, that's how I was when I was in my first year of college. You know, I quickly fell into line and realized that these people were just trying to help me become a better artist, were trying to give me tools to succeed in the working environment. And a lot of the things that I learned when I was in college, I have implemented into my freelance business, and I have been successful doing so. You know, I have been able to communicate accurately with customers. I still do my studies every day. I do figure studies almost every single day if I can. Sometimes art block and, you know, depression and whatnot makes it a little difficult for me to pull my sketchbook out and do it. But, you know, do a lot of ink studies. I try to branch out and use different mediums. I try to make myself as versatile as possible, and I try to learn as much as I possibly can. So when someone says, I can understand when someone says that they already learned this, they don't have to learn it anymore. You know, because I used to be that way. But nowadays, I can't understand why someone would see a wealth of knowledge and a well of just improvement and turn their nose up at it and just ignore it's there and not want to branch into that, not want to put their hand in the cookie jar and see what's in there. You know, even if it's going to make them a better artist. So, and honestly, I do think that if she had branched out and done studies and figured out how to do things and bought books and blah, 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 she probably would not have had this controversy right now of the tracing the armor. So, I'm probably rambling at this point, but that's my experience with things, and, you know, it just comes down to just practicing, honestly. Don't ignore practicing. Don't ignore the basics of anything. My fiance is a performance major in college. He's about to graduate, and he still does his scales every Okay, he doesn't do his scales every day, but he should be. But he still practices those fundamental things because they're needed for him to succeed in his actual works, just like in any artistic thing or in any field ever that requires you to make things. You know, you are your own tool set, and your tool set is only as good as you want it to be. So I will probably be uploading more videos and tutorials and stuff on how to do figure studies and whatnot. But that was just my rant because I saw a bunch of stuff on it and I just had to get it out of my system. And you should, by the end of this, be seeing my video because, or my picture coming to an end and being finished. You know, putting all those nice little final touches on it. Sorry for rambling to you guys for so long, but I'm glad you stuck around if you did until then. And if you like what I put out, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the bell and like it and whatever YouTubers tell you to do nowadays. Hashtag capitalism is the only way. Communism wins. Have a good day, guys.